Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Billy Napier, the Florida Gators rolling through fall camp, and we have our first scrimmage of fall camp going down Saturday. We got a ton to talk about, some freshman standouts, some surprise standouts as well. I got to take right off the rip, Dill. I kind of want to get your take on it as well. This team seems so deep. And we've talked about the depth of this football team really throughout the offseason, but you're starting to see it backed up during fall camp. And what I mean by that is, look, it ain't no secret. Like, Florida has dealt with some injuries on both sides of the football during fall camp. Nothing too significant, but the classic fall camp nicks and bruises. They just seem to have more guys step up. We're doing this for a lot of other teams in fall camp, and when they have injuries, I mean, they can't run their offense. I'm looking at Florida and saying, all right, Dallas Wilson's dealing with an injury. A guy like Eugene Wilson is held out. Aiden Mizell's held out, and say, all right, we just have more guys stepping up. That is, to me, a sneaky sign of a legit contender going into 2025. It's one thing to have talent, but what often separates a lot of teams when you get into the month of November, especially in this conference, do you have enough depth? Dude, this team seems, yes, they have the top end talent. Newsflash, DJ Lagway, guys like Caleb Banks, they have the top end talent. This team seems really deep as well. Buying more stock in Florida rolling into 2025. A lot of really fun standouts to talk about. Before we get into it, as always, the Florida fans, appreciate you guys. Many of y'all been rocking with the boys for a very long time. It ain't no secret that the fellas are very high on the Gators rolling into 2025. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel and let it fly in the comment section with some observations of your own. Like, look, if you're waking up Sunday morning listening to the boys talk about Florida, chances are y'all got some takes as well. Let it rip. Appreciate you guys. Dill, linebackers. And here's what I mean by linebackers taking the step. The linebacker play was great for Florida. It was good for Florida in 2024. You had some young linebackers really taking that step. Guys like Myles Graham as a freshman, Pup Howard in year two. What I'm looking for from Florida going into 2025, can we be difference makers? Can we have a little bit more of a fingerprint on the football game? Because, Dylan, I'm going back to the 2024 year. As good as I think the linebackers played last year, there wasn't a single linebacker that had over 5 TFLs. Like, we were making the plays we were supposed to make, but we didn't necessarily leave a fingerprint on the football game. What you heard from fall camp yesterday was, a guy like Aaron Childs and a guy like Myles Graham. They are taking that step, not just being good linebackers for Florida. They're going to be difference makers, and I think that's a monster storyline for Florida going into 2025.
And Aaron Childs is kind of the guy you still look to because
Dude,
he just wasn't playing very confident last year. It felt like he was playing slower than like his athletic traits kind of
I
say he
agree
should
with
have been
this.
playing, not always attacking downhill as much. Frankly, I think Myles Graham felt like slightly further along in that
Yes,
respect, maybe
by
in
far.
terms of how he was playing and flying around. If they get Aaron Childs and Myles Graham going together, that could be such a ferocious linebacker duo, I would think, in terms of, like, again, big, long, athletic guys who can take on blocks in the middle, but also can play elite in space. Like,
And get
those two
after the
to me would be
passer,
special.
Dill. And get after the passer. I mean, we're hearing that from both Myles Graham and Aaron Childs during fall camp. And look, I promise you, Ron Roberts ain't just going to waste these talented linebackers. He's going to do everything he can to get them in positions that have a really big impact on the football game. Going back to what you said about Aaron Childs, I agree with you. Aaron Childs felt to me like how Pup Howard felt his freshman year at South Carolina, where it's like just this juiced up physical specimen at linebacker, but it wasn't fully together between the years. Can Aaron Childs take that step? And it's important to remind ourselves, like, Myles Graham was a guy that was an early enrollee. Had all spring practice. Aaron Childs wasn't. He was a guy that came in late in the summer, didn't have a ton of time, didn't have a ton of opportunity to get a ton of reps. Going into year two, look, I don't think it's crazy to say Aaron Childs might be the best backer on this football team. I don't say that lightly because Myles Graham's a stud. I think Pup Howard's very good too. Jaden Robinson. You got 4 linebackers, man, that I think can be special. I think can be great. And now it's about having them take that step. And look, I'm not saying that Aaron Childs is going to come out and be Anthony Hill, but can we get closer to that? You go to Anthony Hill, 10 sacks, 17 TFLs. I think Florida's linebacker room is capable of having that kind of impact.
Well, I think you want to get one of those guys to step up and not just replace Shamar James, because Shamar James, I almost wish he was back,
I think
frankly,
you
because
can
I don't
upgrade.
think he ever totally got
Yeah,
it going in the way he
100%
could
agree.
have. Like, can one of those guys replace Shamar James and frankly surpass him in terms of like,
Yes.
oh, I think putting their stamp on this defense as being one of the best players simply on that defensive side of the
Yep.
ball.
Yep. And I don't think it's crazy to say that a couple guys can play better than Shamar. And that's not a shot at Shamar James. That's giving flowers to what I think are some really, really good linebackers. And again, why are we bringing it up? It's what you're hearing coming out of fall camp is like
And
these
they'll have the
guys.
advantage of being able to work with Ron Roberts through their whole career, because I do think there was like you saw how much better Shamar James got under Ron Roberts. You saw how much better that defense in general got. So they will almost have that leg up, because I do think you found your linebackers coach in Ron
Dude,
Roberts.
Ron Roberts is so good with that's another thing that fires me up is these linebackers are sick. Ron Roberts is like, say what you will about some other, but he is so good at maximizing linebackers. This group of linebackers could be amazing. And Dill, here's the other thing. We'll move on. Probably spent a little too much time on the backers. They're playing behind a defensive line that we think is going to be a bunch of butt kickers up front. And it only helps your off-ball linebackers. Speaking of defensive line, Dill, depth emerging, and look, maybe I'm making a bigger deal than it needs to be made, but like my big concern was, do we have enough bodies that we trust in the middle of the defensive line? We know Caleb Banks is a dog, and Caleb Banks was a dog yesterday. Jamari Lyons sounds like he's fully back from the injury. Really big news. Dill, how about some of the freshmen, man? I mean, especially a guy like Joseph Mabachu, who, look, summer enrollee, I would have not pegged him as a contributor year one. This kid's been playing football for like 18 months. Dill, when you have the power that Joseph has, you can find a role. Now, is it going to be a super polished, disruptive freak? No, probably not year one. Can he give you 10 to 15 quality snaps where he's eating up some double teams? Maybe. And if you get that, that's really big. You talk about maximizing Caleb Banks. You don't want this kid to play 60 snaps a game. If you can find some other bodies that you can rotate and keep Caleb Banks fresh, that's how you get the best out of Caleb. Hearing some of these freshmen taking that step, I think that's a look. You know it's nitty gritty when we're talking about a true freshman defensive lineman that might not play over 15 snaps a game, but I think it matters when you're talking about Florida trying to make the college
Well,
football
because
playoffs.
frankly, at the end of the day, like none of those other four in front of Mbatu have like totally shown enough to be like, oh, they are like I'm penciling in them. They're like SEC starting level players, and that's not to say Mekhi Bore or Brandon Bett or even Tavares Brown and Brian Taylor can't like get there. But that is the fundamental question for this Florida team. So
Yes,
as
agreed.
many irons as you can get in the fire, I
Yes.
think would be really helpful. Because again, you just don't. That is the one probably thing you're looking at just a pure roster standpoint. Like, are we deep enough? Because again, they have the bodies. Again, have you seen enough from Brian Taylor? Have you seen
Do
enough
you
from
think
Bore?
we see Tyreek Sapp kicking the inside on third and long situations?
Yeah,
He's got the
probably,
horsepower too.
especially if Jaden Woods is as good as they're saying he
It's
is.
kind of what I'm getting at. It's like I don't when it's 3rd and 8 and I'm trying to maximize my pass rush. I don't want George Gums or Jaden Woods sitting on the bench. And maybe you can kick Tyreek Sapp in and have George Gums and Jaden Woods
And
piggyback
that's
back on the
frankly a
outside.
good point, because Tyreek Sack could probably play on the inside on like any down he wants. Like
Yes, he
he is
could.
that type of physical presence. So like you talk about like mixing, matching, like building out the depth of this team. Like Tyreek Sapp's versatility is a really, really big piece of
Yeah.
what this Florida team's
I
capable.
will say though, I don't know if I want to monkey around with it too much because he's really, really
But
good
if
at
you're
what he
playing
does.
like a team that's really spreading you out, like in
Yeah,
LSU, for example, like, yeah, I could see
sure.
Tyreek Sapp giving you really good snaps in that interior because he can do it. He's
Yeah.
physically very capable.
He is. Yeah, I think he's one of the strongest players on the football team, and I mean, I ain't gonna argue with that. He certainly looks like it. All right, last one, and this is another kind of conversation on defense in terms of versatility. There's a very good chance that Kermani McClain starts for this football team, and especially because one, Kermani McClain sounds like he's doing all the right things and continues. Dylan, here's the thing with Kermani: it's not flashes. Last year, maybe with some flashes, was never consistent. Never heard his name every single time. Every single time I read fall camp intel, Kermani McClain's balling out. Dejon Johnson obviously had some off the field stuff, but also hasn't really been fully healthy. Dill, I don't think it's crazy to talk about Kermani McClain being the other starting cornerback. opposite Devin Moore, which has the opportunity. That's some serious length, some serious ball skills. That has the opportunity to be a very good cornerback duo. Then my conversation is this. Well, shoot, do I want DeJon Johnson not playing a lot of football for this team? No, probably not. DeJon Johnson's put together, man. He's put together, can support the run. Do we see DeJon Johnson maybe kicking and play a little nickel for this Florida team in 2025? That's not a shot at Sharif Denson. It's not a shot at Aaron Gates, but I know both of them are kind of dealing with some injuries. If you're trying to get your 5 best on the football field in the secondary, that might include DeJon Johnson kicking in, because I don't think you can do that with Kermani. As much as I love Kermani and I love what I'm hearing, I don't think he's going to be supporting his run.
No, he's a boundary guy.
He's a boundary. Kermani, boundary guy, 100%. DeJon Johnson kicking into nickel. Do you think that's a possibility given Kermani McLean's becoming a guy you can't keep off the football field?
Well, and again, is that even like a rotational piece where, like, yeah, I think there's things that Aaron Gates and Sharif Denson do really well, especially in the way they support the run. They aren't the pass cover guys or coverage guys, I'd probably say, that DeJon Johnson would be. So even that's it. Can you do it like we talk about that defensive line, like moving Tyreek Sapp around situation to situation? You probably can do it in the secondary room. I will say, like, I wonder, like, again, with Aaron Gates and Sharif Denson, like, their specialties are like first and second down players almost to me for this Florida team. So, like, can you almost rotate them in?
I have a question for you, kind of another take that just popped into my mind. When you're playing a team like Georgia that wants to run 2 tight end sets, and I think that's what you're kind of getting at, is maybe that's when Sharif Denson and Aaron Gates maybe play a little bit more. Why wouldn't you just play 3 linebackers? You have the athleticism. I mean, look, a guy like Childs ain't going to be a liability in coverage and in space. There's a lot of different ways this defense can look, and that kind of goes back to how I opened this episode. There's so much depth. Like, now your job is, how do we get our best grouping of football players on the football field? There's a lot of different options, and when you have athleticism like you do at linebacker, those options get a little bit more of a plethora of options. All right, I don't know if that totally made sense. Let's go to the offense side of the football, though. Plethora, I should just not use that word because I'm not totally sure what it means. All right, offensive side of the football. Dill, you talk about depth. I mean, you're down Eugene Wilson. You're down Aiden Mizell. And they sounded like they were held out precautionary. Let's get him back fully healthy. Down Dallas Wilson. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Those are 3 of your top 4 wide receivers, probably. Top 5 for sure. It doesn't sound like Florida skipped a beat at all. Like, Jay Mike's just been that guy. Vernell Brown's going to play. Now, the question is, if Eugene Wilson's healthy, he kind of plays a similar role that Eugene Wilson plays. But Dale, I went back and watched Vernell Brown as a senior in high school. Plays a little bit out on the boundary. There's 2 things that he brings. Number one, his route running ability, especially for a young kid. He was not one of those wide receivers that just leaned on being the fastest player on the football field to win. This kid is he's a technician when it comes to creating separation, way further beyond what Eugene Wilson was when he came in as a freshman. Like, Eugene Wilson was just the yards after the catch guy. Vernell Brown can give you yards after the catch juice, but also can just dice you up as a route runner. And here's another story. Like, how do you get all these wide receivers on the football field for Florida in 2025? Because it sounds like you got 5-6 guys that you really, really like. How do you mix and match them? But make no mistake about it, like, Vernell Brown's a guy that you can trust, and he will be a difference maker for Florida immediately in 2025.
And I think the fact that, like, you don't have Lagway in this scrimmage and you're still moving the ball on offense, like, I'd like to think that's a really good sign in terms of, like, well, there's a lot more around him. Because last year the receiver play simply wasn't great. I mean, like, Shamir DK had a good year for what he was. He just doesn't have the talent that guys like Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown have. Like, they're just limited. They didn't have guys who could do a ton of different things. Elijah Badger was working down the field vertically pretty effectively.
That's fair.
The route runner that some of these guys are. I think you have a much more greater depth of skills probably in this wide receiver room, and a little bit more probably up on talent as well.
I can agree with that. I didn't totally agree with, like, I thought the wide receiver play actually ended up being way better than I thought it was going to be.
Well, no, that's like, it was better than I thought it was going to be, but it wasn't like, I feel like it was almost 2 guys who you could depend on, and then not.
And they did. And then the other thing is, they both kind of did the same thing. They weren't they're vertical guys, right? Now it's like we have our verticality. Jay, Mike, and Dallas Wilson, that we got some verticality to us.
Because we got on DJ a lot, like, oh, why is his completion percentage what it is? Like, is the only thing they have is getting the ball down the field. Like, well, there weren't a ton of options underneath of guys who could get themselves open and be really effective, like a Vernell Brown, hopefully can, like what a Eugene Wilson, if you can get back kind of humming, if you will, what he can be. So you just look, I think, again, like, cleaning this offense up and having a little bit more multi-dimensionality in the passing attack will be, we just have more guys who have different skill sets, because last year you had two guys who kind of did the same thing.
That's actually a very, very fair point. It's so crazy though, because go back to January, we were like banging the table for Florida to hammer the wide receiver. Like, you got to build around DJ Lagway. You don't have enough around DJ Lagway. And all of a sudden I'm looking at this wide receiver room and say, all right, like, I don't know if I'm going to put it above like Auburn or Alabama right now. How many other SEC programs are we taking their wide receiver room over what we have in front of us? Like, the answer is not many. Like, this should be a top-end wide receiver room in the conference this year. And you have the quarterback.
Vernell and Dallas are what, like, we're kind of hearing they are.
I have no doubt. It's just, the buzz is too much to ignore. Like, they're both going to be guys, I think. And then Aiden Mizell is another guy that sounds like he's taking a step too, yards after the catch ability. All right, real quick, I want to run through two things. Like, Jaden Ball continues to be just an absolute hammer, man. And I feel like this is a storyline that's kind of flying under the radar. Like with DJ Lagway, Dallas Wilson, like they're everybody wants to talk about them, and I don't blame you. This run is a really good offensive line with a running back in Jaden Bond. This is not to discount Jacoby Jackson. I think Jacoby Jackson is really dang good. The buzz around Jaden Bond continues to grow. That's what excites me about Florida, the amount of different ways that they can get after you. Dill, last thing though, Hayden Hansen buzz, man. And this is like in my opinion, the missing piece, maybe is the best way to say it. The tight ends don't totally scare you. Will it sound like Hayden Hansen had a few explosive plays in the scrimmage on Saturday? We know Billy Napier is going to use the tight ends. I don't think that's going to drastically change, especially with how Florida wants to run the football and especially how good Hayden Hansen is in the run blocking department. Can Hayden Hansen in 2025 give us a little bit more juice, playmaking ability as a pass catcher? Sounds like maybe we heard that in fall camp. I'm not totally sold until I see it in 2025, but Dill, that's like the cherry on top here. Florida's offense is going to be fine regardless if Hayden Hansen's like a difference maker or not. But if he becomes one, especially over the middle of the field, giving DJ Lagway some easier stuff, that is just another level this Florida offense, in my opinion, can reach in the 2025 year.
And this, again, especially when you're going to run the ball the way they're going to be able to do it and work off the play action the way Billy Napier wants to. You really want your tight end to be an effective piece. And again, like, it felt like it was a little limited. Like we've talked about it, just like they'd roll them into the flat or drag them across the field at like that 5-yard, 10-yard maybe depth. That felt like kind of what their tight ends were doing. Like, can you just run a little bit more?
Can I maybe backtrack and just say, I don't know if you need Hayden Hansen to be like a first team all conference tight end. Like, what if he's just a tight end that allows DJ Lagway to have some easier stuff? Because that's one of the things we want to see a little bit more of, right? We know DJ Lagway can make a draw drop. Want to be a little bit more efficient. Well, Hayden Hansen maybe has a big body, big catch radius that's work in the middle. Like some easier stuff for DJ Lagway. That could be really big for Florida too. I know fall can, and hey, last thing, I should have led with this. No major injuries that we've heard so far, which is big because Florida's been dealing with some of that stuff. That's good. Even with some of the bumps and bruises that Florida has acquired during fall camp, you are hearing some really good things coming out of this program. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.